Okay, this is my 2008 Ford F-250. This has been my winter project. If you've seen some of my other videos, this thing will look familiar. Maybe not exactly this nice, but she's been sitting for about 4 years. Finally got it back on the road. So it has a 6.4 Powerstroke. It's a 4x4, short bed, extended cab. It's not too far from stock, but it's definitely got some stuff going on. So with the exterior, this thing's an XLT, but it's oddly low optioned. So it didn't even come with a towing package. Those mirrors, I added the towing mirrors, I added the fog lights, obviously that light bar. The lift is about 5.5 inches. I'll go into detail on the lift later. It's a bit of a rant against rough country. But it's about 5.5 inches, all suspension. The wheels, I don't know, there's some Chinese stuff, Raceline I think they're called. Yeah, that's what that center cap says. Raceline wheels. They're not very good. Chrome's already in pretty bad shape. But they weren't expensive. Tires are Federal Coragia, I don't know how you say that. They're garbage. Dry rotted and wore very quickly. Wasn't impressed with those. Fender flares are just some stuff off of Amazon, I think. They were cheap, but the point of them is just to keep the fenders from getting sandblasted, so do the job. They're not color matched, they're painted with Krylon Fusion, and then the cheapest clear coat I could find over at Canadian Tire. What else to say about the exterior? Side steps only because of the wife. I'm not a fan of them. But... oh yeah, these are inserts. I can't remember what they're called. Street Scene or something like that. They're kind of blingy. They're originally stainless or chrome or something like that. And I had matching ones for the front. I had them all put in, but I didn't like the look. It was just too blingy. So what I did with those, I actually reversed them so that they're inset. And what did I do? Paint them gray with some rubberized coating or some such. Under the hood, if I can get it open. Nothing too crazy under here, but there is some stuff. I got an AFE intake. I have all Mishimoto boots. I have a Mishimoto catch can kit that came with a different oil fill, and in the back, you can't really see it because that insulation's fallen down. I have a set of Flo-Pro up pipes. They're EGR delete up pipes, and I have an MBRP 4-inch downpipe. And obviously I have the this thing's deleted, the whole EGR valve. Coolers are gone. And this thing's cramped, but there's a lot more room to work when you start getting rid of that stuff. Interior, not much to talk about. Whole truck needs a proper cleaning, but we'll get it eventually. Pretty stock in here, except I've got my tuner. That's a Torque Technologies T1. I have an aux beam switch down there, and my brake controller. It's a draw tight, and it's actually installed. It's not just shoved in there. Like I say, this thing didn't come with any towing gear. So normally there'd be a trailer brake right here and the upfitter switches, but didn't have those. I never use these little pockets, so this just seemed like a good spot to put it. It's easy to grab, and like I say, it's actually fastened to the pocket. It's got some screws in there, so it's not going anywhere. So there it is. That's what I've been putting my heart and soul into all winter long. So the lift kit, I promised to rent, so here it comes. The lift kit's originally a rough country 4.5-inch suspension lift. Now it has parts from rough country, it has Rancho shocks, and it has Pro Comp rear leafs. Oh, and it has some Skyjacker brake lines. So the deal with this supposedly 4.5-inch lift is that when I first got it, it came with springs for the front but blocks for the back, and it came with 3-inch blocks in the back. It does come with some blocks. I think they're 1 7/8" or something like that from the factory. But if you guys know anything about suspension lifts, you know you don't stack blocks. So the only way I was going to get 4.5 inches was by stacking the blocks, which I tried to do, and even then it looked like it was shooting out towards the space station up there. It was pretty ugly. I don't know, maybe some guys like that look, but the front was lifted 6 inches. I took measurements before and after. The front springs lifted at 6 inches, so they were not 4.5-inch lift springs. And I started going back and forth with rough country over this, and I gave them the part numbers for the springs, and they said, no, those are the right springs. Well, it's a 6-inch lift, and it's a 4.5-inch kit, so they can't be right. Well, I finally got it out of them that those were the springs that they send along. They're 6-inch lift springs for a gas truck, because obviously the diesel's heavier than the gas, so you'll have different springs for gas and diesel trucks. And those are 6-inch springs for a gas truck. But I don't know what kind of an idiot thinks that a few hundred pounds is gonna make the difference of 1.5 inches in your suspension, but I mean, come on, there's no way. Otherwise the thing would look like a yacht that's about to tip over every time you got your fat ass in it. It's just ridiculous. I would say at this point, the way it's settled, it's measuring out to about 5.5 inches. So in order to fix that, what I ended up doing was getting some 8-inch blocks. That's what it took to pull all the blocks out so that I didn't have to stack blocks. I had 8-inch blocks in here, and man, they had so much rotational force on that axle, you couldn't tow with it. And what's the point of a diesel that you can't tow with? It was just trying to rip the axle right out of her. So when I finally did this go around, it took me a long time to properly deal with it, but I finally got some Pro Comp 5-inch lift springs, which aren't 5-inch lift springs, go figure, another lift company lying, and added the overload leafs from the factory leaf pack, and then I still had to build some blocks, which would have had to be done anyways because they managed to get the pins way off center. So that's what it took to get this thing leveled out, and it's not a 4.5-inch lift, and that's just the way it is. Rough country. I would not buy any of their products ever again based off of that. It was a ridiculous experience. Oh yeah, the shock absorbers sucked. They were terrible. The thing rode like, not a 3/4 ton pickup, it rode like a rock. It rode like a tank. It was awful. You couldn't even go down a gravel road. Again, it's a pickup truck. So I've driven it a little bit with these rough country, or not rough country, so the Ranchos. RS 9000, so they're adjustable. They got little knobs down there. I like them. They have a really good ride comparatively. It's still a 3/4 ton truck, but they have they control the suspension well, and they ride as good as I can expect from a 3/4 ton truck. I'm pretty happy with those. The bracketry and such, the steering arm that came with the rough country kit, that's still on there, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. So I guess that's all there is to say. She is a beauty, in my eyes anyways. As far as I'm concerned, if you think this truck's ugly, you're wrong.